Hello everyone. So in continuation with my previous video, I'm gonna start read chapter 1 of Psychology of Money. Chapter name is No One's Crazy. Alright. So let me tell you about a problem. It might make you feel better about what you do with your money and less judgmental about what other people do with theirs. People do some crazy things with money, but no one is crazy. Okay, so the author is trying to say that we do crazy things with money, but we are not crazy. No one is crazy. Here's the thing, people from different generations, raised by different parents who earn different incomes and held different values in different parts of the world, born into different economies, experiencing different job markets with different incentives and different degrees of luck, learn very different lessons. Okay, so the author is trying to tell you about the different background from which we all come and what are our experience with money and what kind of knowledge we are passing on to the next generation and what we have learned from our parents about money. So author is talking about that. Everyone has their own unique experience with how the world works, and what you have experienced is more compelling than what you learn second hand. Correct? Like whatever we learn first hand is the right way and we accept it. So all of us, you, me, everyone go through life anchored to a set of views about how money works that vary widely from person to person. What seems crazy to you might make sense to me. Okay, as we all have different set of views and about our knowledge about money and how the money works, it differs. Okay, so whatever is crazy to you may make sense to me. The person who grew up in poverty thinks about risk and reward in ways the child of a wealthy banker cannot fathom if he tried. Correct? The person who grew up with inflation was high experienced, something the person who grew up with stable prices never had to. Correct? I mean, the one who has grown up with inflation may have different experience from the person who grew up with stable prices. Okay, so both personalities have different kind of experience here. The person who, sorry, the stockbroker who lost everything during the Great Depression experienced something the tech worker basking in the glory of the late 1990s can't imagine. Alright. The Australian who hasn't seen a recession in 30 years has experienced something no American ever has. Okay, so in short, everybody's experience with money is different. That's what the author is trying to tell us. Is it visible? Good. On and on, the list of experience is endless. You know stuff about money that I don't, and vice versa. You go through life with different beliefs, goals, and forecasts other than I do. That's not because one of us is smarter than the other or has better information. It's because we have had different lives shaped by different and equally persuasive experiences. Correct? Your personal experiences with money make up maybe 0.000000001% of what's happened in the world, but maybe 80% of how you think the world works. Okay, so it is like how we behave with the money is based upon our previous knowledge about money, like whatever our understanding of the world is. Like if we suppose there will be a recession, if we suppose that there is greater risk, then we will behave accordingly. We will invest more, we will save more. Not invest, we will save more. If we don't like to take risk, then we are going to save more rather than investing it in stock market. Correct? But one who has never faced any kind of recession and risk, he will invest their money into stocks without fearing about the consequences. So equally smart people can disagree about how and why recession happens. How you should invest your money, what you should prioritize, how much risk you should take on, and so on. Correct. In his book on 1930s America, Frederick Lewis Allen wrote that the Great Depression marked millions of Americans inwardly for the rest of their lives, but there was a range of experiences. 25 years later, as he was running for president, John F. Kennedy was asked by a reporter what he remembered from the Depression. Okay, so now the author is talking about a book which was written by Frederick Lewis Allen about the Great Depression in 1930s. So when John F. Kennedy was running for the presidential post, a reporter asked to him about the depression, what he remembered or not. Now, I think this is the remark of John F. Kennedy. I have no first-hand knowledge of the depression. My family had one of the great fortunes of the world and it was worth more than ever. Then we had bigger houses, more servants, we traveled more. About the only thing that I saw rightly was when my father hired some extra gardeners just to give them a job so they could eat. I really did not learn about the depression until I read about it at Harvard. Okay, so John F. Kennedy was a wealthy man. As you can see that his father hired more gardeners just to give them a job so that they could eat. So he hadn't experienced the Great Depression firsthand. He only read about it at Harvard. So it was only second-hand knowledge. This was a major point in the 1960 election. How people thought could someone with no understanding of the biggest economic story of the last generation be put in charge of the economy? It was in many ways overcome only by JFK's experience in World War II. That was the other most widespread emotional experience of the previous generation, and something his primary opponent, Hubert Humphrey, didn't have. Okay, so the people there were suspicious, or you could say concerned, that whether this person, John F. Kennedy, can be put in charge for the economy because he hasn't experienced the Great Depression, but he has the experience of World War II. Okay, the primary experience which overcome his lack of knowledge of Great Depression. Now, the challenge for us is that no amount of studying or open-mindedness can generally recreate the power of fear and uncertainty. So the challenge is, like, no amount of studying or open-mindedness can generally recreate the power of fear and uncertainty. So the author is trying to say the person who has gained first-hand experience of Great Depression or World War II, so he must have gone through some kind of fear, some kind of insecurity, some kind of uncertainty. So no matter how, we can't recreate that power, we can't feel those kind of fear, we can't feel those kind of uncertainty because we haven't gone through those situations. So no matter how much we study and no matter how much we are open-minded. That's what the author is trying to say in this paragraph. Now moving on.